Hi, I'm Mark Gallagher. I'm an associate professor.
My
in the
name is
Department of Culture,
Dr.
Film, and
Cecilia
Media here
Goria.
at Nottingham.
And
My name's Jonathan Talent, and I'm an
Hi,
associate
my name is
professor
Mark
and I'm
Pierce,
also the head of
and
department.
I teach.
Hi, my name is Carly Crouch. I am lecturer in Hebrew Bible in the Department of Theology and Religious Studies here in the School of Humanities at the University of Nottingham. You're about to see a series of videos highlighting the researchers in the Faculty of Arts, our research, as well as the different spaces and places in which we think about and work on our research, both individually, collectively with our colleagues, and also with our students. Right, so I do research on the social and intellectual history of Israel and Judah and the ancient Near East in their broader context. So I'm interested in the kinds of things which we might categorize as ethics. So the way in which people's experiences affect how they think about correct behavior, how the way that people think in turn affect the way that they act. So I've written on, for example, mythology and ideology to do with warfare, with military violence in Israel and Judah and Assyria. Thinking about the way that ideas about creation, about struggling for order and against chaos gets written onto justifications for violent acts in warfare.
I work broadly on East Asian cinema, particularly Hong Kong film and television, with some extension into mainland China and the rest of East Asia. And I work as well on contemporary American cinema, or really 1960s to present, with a particular focus on alternative and independent cinema, but also looking at mainstream work in larger industries as well.
My research interest pivot around mainly online teaching, the development, the use of technology for online teaching, and this is precisely where it connects so narrowly with my teaching, because I do a lot of online teaching.
One other thing that particularly catches me is how to make sense of the connection between our best philosophical theories of time and what seems to be implied by our best physics. So it's reasonably well known that according to our best physical theories, there's no such thing as absolute simultaneity. Different observers will observe different events to be simultaneous with one another. But presentists say that only present objects exist, and that seems to imply that everything is simultaneous with everything else, regardless of which observer is involved. So there's a really interesting question then about the primacy of philosophy versus physics, or the primacy of physics versus philosophy, how to make sense or reconcile these two different disciplines, and that's something I'm really interested in.
My specific specialty is Mediterranean prehistory and northern Italy, and I'm interested in two big themes within prehistory. One of those themes is the spread of agriculture, and I've used Bayesian statistics to try to understand the chronology, and through understanding the chronology, the mechanism of the spread in Italy. And the other theme that I'm particularly interested in is ancient mining and metallurgy.
So this is my office where I conduct most of my research. You'll notice that I keep a lot of books in my office. A large number are ones which I've bought or acquired under my own steam, but actually included amongst them are a large number which I was gifted at one point by a former pastor of our church, whose mantra always was, as we were growing up, was context, context, context. So you can see a bit of a sense of the interests I have in terms of research coming out of what's the historical context for these texts. And also a large number of these books are an inheritance from my predecessor, Ed Ball, who passed away a few years ago. And when I came and joined the department, his widow was kind enough to leave a large number of his books to me. And so there's definitely a sense in this space of the continuity and continuation of research from generation to generation.
It's a space where people get a little bit of a sense of, if not the stakes of the kind of research activity they're doing, some of the objects of that research, the types of films and film practitioners whose work and names are displayed on the walls, as well as many of the outputs that those people produce, in terms of the films that they make, as well as the type of scholarship that happens in those spaces. So I think it's a good reminder. Most of us as academics use our offices partly to house our materials, but also they function kind of symbolically as these sort of badges of the type of work that we've done, the type of knowledge that we've taken in, or sometimes subtle reminders to us of the large number of books on our shelves that we have yet to read but have been meaning to do for a long time.
To teach people remotely, to teach people online, and to research teaching, online teaching, means that the most important space for conducting such type of research and teaching is the virtual space. The world map gives me a visual representation of where my students are placed, and at the same time it also gives me a visual prompt that in fact what the virtual space does reaches globally all over the world.
Now, as you can see from the background here, we're today filming in the Millennium Gardens at the University of Nottingham. And for a philosopher of time, this is a really nice place to be filming today. The garden was themed around time, so it's actually designed around a theme of time. And viewed from above, you can see there's a really nice impression of it as seemingly having interlaced cogs, much like the internal mechanism of a clock. And for a philosopher of time, it's a really neat thing to be able to walk through a garden that's themed so explicitly around something that I spend lots of my time researching on a day-to-day basis.
One of the things that most people expect when they visit an academic's office is to find books on the floor, books on the table, and lots of books in the bookshelves, and I'm afraid I'm guilty. And I'm guilty because these are our tools of the trade. Just as a scientist has a laboratory, in the arts we use libraries.